And we're back on the YSN Breaking Bad Show, presented to you proudly by Greenwood Chevrolet. And you know, Jeff Beck's coming up next, the longtime legendary football coach, to follow his son. But, you know, Jeff was telling me off air, he's like, I got to follow my kid? I got to follow that performance? That's how outstanding. Jeff, first of all, you got to be so proud of what Johnny's accomplished.
Well, I've always been proud of all of his accomplishments, and as well as the accomplishments of my daughter. And just to sit back and listen to them talk about teaching and coaching and things like that, just kind of make you feel, like maybe they were listening when you didn't think they were all
Absolutely.
those years ago.
You know, I found it interesting. John was saying that, you know, when he played for you, when you were at Hubbard High School, you know, what it was like sitting around at the dinner table after, you know, various performances. I found that amusing.
Yeah, I think if I had to do it all over again, I might take the foot off the accelerator a little bit, because I was really, I think I overdid it being extra tough on him, and just because I didn't want anybody, including him, to think that they were going to get a pass because they happen to be my kids. So, but we've talked about that in the past, and we both conclude that even though there were those little conversations here and there, those little bumps in the road, it was well worth the experience, and something I think we'll always treasure.
Jeff, you and I go so far back. I remember
Yeah.
at my own place and giving you the High School Football Team of the Week award and having you on our old morning show. I always loved you, brother, and I totally mean that. Early February comes along, and you announce that you're leaving a playoff contender, Warren JFK. You were 6 years with the Eagles, including a state championship, 5 consecutive years in the postseason. I think you were 47 and 27 at Warren JFK, but you're stepping down and you're heading off to Struthers to assist John. Was the fact that John got the head coaching job at Struthers your lone reason for departing? Because you told me off air, I'm kind of semi-retired right now, John.
Well, it was totally that John got the job at Struthers, and you know how people are. Everybody first, they want to say, "Oh, wonder what happened over there." Well, I'm going to tell you, for probably 2 or 3 weeks after I talked to the kids, I really, really had a hard time. I knew it was going to be hard to leave, but I love those kids, and I love what that place stands for, and it was not easy to leave. But then I came home one day, and I was going through some stuff, some that I brought back from the office at JFK, and I opened up one of the notebooks, and there was a picture of John in the notebook, and he had headsets on,
Oh,
because
boy.
one of his jobs at Hubbard when he was a ball boy was to listen to somebody in the press box to make sure the headphones were working properly. And when I saw that picture, I thought to myself, you know what? That's why I left.
Boy, I love that, just to be alongside him. You know, you coached at Canfield, you coached at Hubbard, you coached your son at Hubbard, in fact, and you coached at Camel before getting the Warren JFK. Would you say the high water mark of your incredible career, which sports, and folks, let me tell you what Jeff Bayuk's career record is. It's 202 wins on 121 losses. And that's so impressive. It got you inducted into the Trumbull County Sports Hall of Fame. You've been an outstanding mentor, an outstanding coach. But would you say that Division VII state title, and you had a superlative individual performance back in 2016, would be the high water mark thus far in your coaching career?
John, there's nothing that could ever compare to that moment. But there's nothing that will ever compare to the first year success that we had at Hubbard, when we went 8-2 and won the first league championship in like 14 years.
Wow.
There's nothing like playing Poland 5 times as the head coach at Canfield and beating them every time. There's nothing like standing on the field at Camel Memorial after being there 3 years and watching those seniors who had gone through so much hold up the Camel Struthers trophy because we beat them at our place. And so for me to say high water mark, I don't ever want to take away from all of those wonderful memories that I've had at all of those other schools, because I think probably the nicest text that I got in the bus on the way home from Columbus was from Kurt Kuntz. And he said to me, I hope you know you didn't have to win a state championship to be a championship coach.
Wow.
And I had about 200 texts that day, as you can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine.
But I stopped when I read that one, and I thought to myself, this is really a great accomplishment. But just sharing all those memories with all those kids, that's the high water mark.
I love that. And, I think Keneally said it best. He goes, no matter where Jeff Bayuk goes from this point forward, he's always going to become and always will be a member of our Kennedy family, which is a special bond out there in Warren.
Yeah, and, it's kind of funny, John, if you're around as long as I have. I mean, I've coached for, since 1978. You run into great people like Joe Keneally, and I had an opportunity to work with him the last 6 years, and I those were times that I treasure. But what's really neat about the fact that Joe is the president at Warren JFK is the fact that he was a sophomore at Ursuline when I coached there. And so, I mean, I knew him when he was 15 years old, and then things go full circle. I had a chance to work with him again.
And then we had Dom Prologo on, who you left the program in very capable hands on the Breaking Bat show. And Dom spoke volumes of you and talked about essentially calling you guys best friends, and you constantly pick each other's brains. And I'm sure Dom, at some point during the upcoming fall campaign, is going to be calling Coach Jeff Bayuk for a pointer or two.
Well, I can assure you and everybody in the JFK community that he is ready for this job, probably more ready than anybody that I've ever worked with. He's an integral part of the reason that we won the state championship and turned things around at JFK. And I'm lucky to call him a friend, a former player, and a guy that coached with me at Canfield, at Canfield and at Hubbard, and at JFK. So he's a great guy, and he understands the dynamic of not just the player, but the young man.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, he gets that. And, so many times in this day and age when people are putting pressure on you to win games and to do this and do that, nothing's more important to that guy than the kids and how they react to things.
You can tell, yeah, and he's been doing it so long. This is his first time taking control, much like your son, John. But Dom has been doing it forever, and what a dynamic personality he has as well. And he's so fired up about the opportunity, and I think having you give your blessing to him taking over the program meant the world to him. But you talk about Blue Pride at Warren JFK, where you're leaving from. Zolchak, Napolet, some of the coaching legends, and Jeff Bayuk's right up there with them. And Dom Prologo hopes to carry on that legend and that tradition with the Eagles.
Well, just for you to use my name in the same sentence with Denny Zolchak and Tony Napolet is fulfilling and makes me feel proud to hear you say that. But You know, Coach Zolchek still comes and watches practice, comes to every game, corresponds with our kids and with our coaches, and he's just a great guy, and he's all JFK. And, of course, Coach Nappy's no longer with us, but I just believe that he's up there watching, and you know, he called me the night that I got hired at JFK, and we had a nice long talk about the place, and he assured me that it was a wonderful place to be with wonderful people, and he was right.
Coach, I want to ask you a question. We're talking to Jeff Bayuk, now going to be an assistant under his son, John Bayuk, first-year head coach with the Struthers Wildcats in 2020. What makes success, Coach? I want to hear it directly from a veteran that's had success with a career mark of 202 and 121. What makes a successful coach? Does a program have to learn how to win? Do you need a 3-year time period? What's that all about? And when can you tell that, you know, what you're trying to get across and convey to your team is actually starting to click?
Well, there are a lot of questions.
There are.
Let me see how I can pull this apart a little bit. So, number one, at every program that I've ever been associated with as a head coach, the key word is fun. So we are going to work harder than anybody else, but we're going to have fun doing it. This is supposed to be fun. This isn't supposed to be a vehicle to get you a college scholarship. This isn't supposed to be a vehicle to get you to be the most popular person in the school. This isn't supposed to be a vehicle for your parents' social status. This is supposed to be your time to have fun and go out and challenge yourself and have fun the right way.
I love that.
That is the absolute cornerstone of what we tried to do at Canfield, what we tried to do at Hubbard, Camel, and JFK. Have fun. Because if you're not having fun, then I'm not having fun. And you know, as the son of a coach, they're not paying any of us enough as coaches not to have fun when we go out there. So we want to have fun too. And if a kid comes to me and says, Coach, I just don't think I really like this anymore, my response is don't do it. It's hard enough to do when you really want to. But if you're not sure or you don't think it's for you, then pursue what you do have a passion for. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to turn my head and not look at you when I'm walking down the hallway. I want you to be the best person. I'll give you a perfect example.
Yes, go ahead.
Nobody was more excited than Jeff Bayuk when he turned on JFK film from the year before and saw Jacob Coates on one side of the ball as a state champion in the 200 and Chad Zallo at corner, the state champion in the 100. And they were both underclassmen. I was thrilled.
Wow. And
I got up there.
Oh, my.
Chad Zallo came and talked to me, and he was he is such a class act, that kid.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me and he said, Coach, I'm really excited that you got the coaching job here, and I really love playing football, but I really think I can do something special in track. And I said, okay. And I knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, he goes, I'm really sorry, but I said, don't you dare apologize for wanting to chase your dream, because someday I'm going to watch you run in the Olympics.
Wow.
I go, that's how I feel about your talent, and that's how I feel about you pursuing that. what was I going to say, John?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, what am I going to say? Oh, I can't believe you're not going to play football.
Mm-hmm.
Now if he was going to go home and sit around and watch TV for the following couple of years, okay. But that's it. You got to have fun, and you have to love what you're doing. And that makes it that makes it so special, but at the same time it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it was really important on Friday nights in Hubbard, Ohio. It's really important in Struthers.
I love that. I love it, Coach.
And that is great. But it also brings with it, as excited and happy as people get about it, they get that upset and angry about it. So you got to love what you're doing, and those kids have to love what you're doing. So the second part of that then is, when do they buy into it? The single best advertiser for your football program are the kids you coach. You can run up and down the hallways, have sign-up sheets, have all kind of crazy activities for them. The kids that are in your program sell it to their classmates. They're the ones that say, you got to come out. There's something different happening here. This is exciting. You got to try this. This is so much fun.
How profound.
That's when you know that you're turning the corner.
Jeff, if I could relate to a story for you, I went to McDonald. I'm sure you're familiar with Andy Galluback.
Absolutely.
79, the team went 9-1, and I'm sitting on the sidelines not playing football. And it just plays into what you just said. 1980, I said, for the first time in 5 years, I'm going out for football because there was a magic in that program. My classmates were having fun. And we went 10-0, and I got to be part of that special process. So I can identify 110% with what you're saying. It created a fun atmosphere, a winning atmosphere, and I wanted to be part of it, Coach.
Well, I think everybody wants to be part of something special. And, when I went over to the weight room at Struthers, the first day that I ventured over there, because I told John, I spent an awful lot of years in the weight room, and I'm not planning on being in the weight room every day. And he said, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But I went over there, and that weight room was absolutely packed. I mean, you could hardly move around. And I just got the feeling that those kids were feeling something. Something's going on here. And I thought that was such a neat feeling. And then with all of this happening, with the coronavirus and everything, It kind of screeched the brakes. But, God, that's what it's all about. We all want to be part of something special. It doesn't just limit itself to sports. Everybody wants to be part of something special. When we had our state championship banquet, some of the people that were there were so excited to be there and be part of it, who were helpers, and JFK thankfully was gracious enough to get state championship rings for everybody who was part of our program.
That is wild.
And I mean, the guys that scouted for us, the people that filmed the games for us, the people that did our stats. I mean, everybody, because everybody wants to be a part of that. And, that's what life's all about, being part of something important where you think you actually are making a difference.
And Coach, I'll never, ever forget that magical year. There's nothing like the camaraderie and, the locker rooms and the two-a-days and the sweating, grinding practices and winning game by game and having the community involved with you. And I can still remember our final game and walking off the field. We beat Columbiana and a great athlete, Scott Knox, that night, 43-16, and we threw Coach in the shower and cut his hair, and it was just it was unbelievable. And that feeling that I'm speaking of. So you're going with Johnny to the Struthers program. What is your role under your son, as an assistant? And what do you envision in 2020 with you two side by side?
Well, the first thing that I would like to say about the Struthers program is that Kurt Kuntz did a really great job of bringing those kids in that program together. And the staff that John has is outstanding. The guys, and with the exception of Rod Greenemeyer, who is coming to work on the offensive line at Struthers, that staff is almost identical to what it was. And those guys are good football coaches, and they know what they're doing. I kind of envision my role as, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, should we go for it or should we punt it? Or, hey, I'm thinking about this new package on defense. What do you think? You know, that's kind of, I want to come in and I want to be a consultant. I want to be somebody
Consultant.
that, like, help them make the decisions using the knowledge that I have to make those. I really think I'm going to be in the press box. I'm going to be on the phones with the defensive coordinator because I need to stay away from the side.
I got to ask, Jeff, I read an article in an interview with you, and I agree, because that's your son, man, and you take it at the heart. Just like when Brian Fedeschi, you know, my longtime friend, I was doing the game on the radio, and they're playing in Massillon, St. Henry for the state champ. I was ultra biased on the air that day, I admit it. But anyway, you also admitted during an interview that you were a nervous wreck attending your son's games at Struthers when you were able to, even though you were the head coach at JFK, because you're sitting there, you know, putting yourself in his shoes about, you know, what he could have done or what you might have done. And you said, man, you could barely control yourself. So probably is a good place for you to be up in the press box in this first year.
I agree, because maybe I can affect, you know, something up there that I couldn't as a fan. So, yeah, I don't do too well sitting in the stands for a lot of reasons. But I would just like to say this. Besides the fact that John has a great staff over there and a lot of really good young coaches, he's got Bud McSuley, who has been coaching for a lot of years. And so, you know, he's got a few older guys that have some gray hairs on his staff that can give him some advice. But I wanted to say this after listening to the interview, the first half hour. Make no mistake about this. John Bayuk is his own man. He has done things and will continue to do things that I, on the field and off, that I could never do.
Wow.
If you would never want to hear me sing a song or play a guitar.
Yeah.
You would never want to see me try to run some of the defensive schemes that he has been running. And so, you know, I told him this when he asked me. He came home one day and he said, Dad, I want to talk to you. I really think I would like you to come and be part of our staff. And without sounding cocky or egotistical, I said to him, John, I don't want to take away anything from what you're doing and what you're going to accomplish over there just because I've been doing this for so long. And he sat back and he just shocks me constantly. But he sits back in the chair and he says to me, I want you to tell me what coach in this area would not hire Rod Greenemeyer and Jeff Bayuk on their staff. And then I want you to tell me why I shouldn't.
Love it.
And I was like, well, I don't really have an answer for that, you know. He said, it's my job to get the best people to coach our kids at Struthers. He goes, and you two guys are two of the best coaches I know. And foregoing any of his ego, foregoing anything that people are going to say, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And honestly, that's another trait that he did not get from me. So, I mean, he's his own person, and I'm really excited to learn from him, just like he's going to learn some things from me.
That is an amazing thing, and everything I've read, and John kind of illuminated this again in the first segment during the YSN Breaking Bad show. He goes, I embrace my father's legacy. I don't run from it. And that I love. And because my dad was a coach, I told your son this, and I got to coach on the 1982 Liberty staff with him. And you know what? Looking back, Jeff, and I see those pictures, and there's me and Brian Fedeschi and my father, and I'm like, one of the greatest years of my life was being alongside my father on those sidelines. So I totally get it. Jeff Bayuk, thank you so much, brother. We will hopefully talk again, and nothing but the best to the 2020 Struthers Wildcats program with your son at the helm.
Thank you, John. Take care and keep up the good work.
Thank you, my man. That's Jeff Bayuk, the legendary football coach that has just departed, warned JFK, and left them in very good hands with Don Prologo, who's going to take over there. But Jeff's mark of 202 and 121 is unprecedented. And he'll be there to learn from his son, which I found very profound, and some of the things that Johnny's going to incorporate. But it's going to be a great story throughout the campaign in 2020.